Hello friends, I'm going to start this video by just talking over some pictures. It's been a pretty rough month for me, 2 months really. Been traveling a lot for work, and then on some personal business in the UK as well, which I won't elaborate on. Needless to say, with a lot of traveling, there hasn't been a ton of time for the hobby, but as I hope to show you in this video, I have managed to make the most of the time that I have had available to paint. The travel has been, as I said, international in nature. So what's essentially happened is for work I've had to complete a project in Germany, and then another project, two separate projects. One that had an English component or a UK component, and another, well, three projects actually. So let me start again. Three projects. One had an English, German and German component. Another had an English and a German component, and the other had an entirely German component. So just to give you an insight of what that might look like, imagine, for example, I would leave here on, say, Friday or Thursday night, land in London on Saturday afternoon, get a flight to Munich, for example, land in Munich, work Saturday night into Sunday morning, then get on a plane back to the UK, then land there Sunday, get a night's sleep essentially, and then work Monday through Friday in the UK, or Monday to Thursday perhaps, and then get on another plane and fly to, say, Hamburg, and work Saturday night there, get back to the UK, and then fly home. So it's not been a fun trip in the sense of spending time out and about, having a good time with things, with like activities and so on. That said, towards the back end of my last trip, I have tried to generate some fun. So I was able to, because I was in the London area just for that weekend. This is actually where I went to Hamburg. I landed in Hamburg at 3 in the afternoon, did an overnight job, and was back in London at 8 a.m. the next morning. I managed to catch the finals weekend of the 100, which is an English cricket tournament. It's not usually my idea of perfect cricket. I'm not really a fan of T20 or these kind of what I would call faddish formats of the game, which are spectacle more than skill in my mind. But beggars can't be choosers. So what I did was managed to get tickets for the Friday Eliminator game, went to the Oval, watched that, and then also managed to get tickets for Lords on the Sunday to watch the actual finals, the doubleheader. It's ladies first and then men's. And yeah, I had a good time. It was Lords in particular was a dream come true. I've never been before. Given that I live in the States, I don't really have the opportunity to attend much cricket. So for me, it was a real treat. So I'd made the most of that, and then obviously the other side of being in the UK, on and off, was that I got to see my mother, who lives there, and some friends who are still there. So I try to make the most of it and see folks that I know and love. But that has meant, obviously, with all that travel, that I've not been home a ton. So take this video for what it is. You won't see a lot of completed stuff. This is more of a work in progress video, but I just wanted to share with you that I'm still chipping away, and I wanted to share some of the techniques I've been using to try to keep the momentum going, so that it's not just completely dead time when I'm away, or when I am home and I'm tired and all that. Poor Catherine has to put up with me. I think I had like 1 week home where I was home from like Monday night till Friday, and then I had to disappear again. So just for context, I've not had a ton of time to really get a lot of painting under the belt. But so yeah, that's just sets the scene for the video, if you will. All right, so these are the Austrians that I've been working on. Victrix figures. Done them 6 to a 50mm base. The idea is to do 5 bases per battalion. So I've done these 18. I have 2 spare, and then I have a command stand here. I think I can fit everybody on here with a bit of creative maneuvering. Once they're not on their bases, obviously, they can fit on there. Other stuff I'm working on is I bashed out this unit of War of Spanish Succession Malberian British types. They are not done, but they are close to done. They're very quick to paint, so thought I would quickly get some of those done. And then over here, you can see a whole host of Romans that I've done. Now, the piece that's missing on them is obviously the shields, which I will do in due course, but the little Big Man Studio transfers are quite fiddly because you essentially have to marry them along the spine of the figure and around the boss. It is quite tedious, so I've been avoiding doing that. Kind of onesie twosies and focusing more on numbers, but I think the figures themselves came out nice. This will be for like a veteran legion, so I've given them red clothing, red tunics, red shields. There'll be a few white tunics mixed in there as well, just for variety, because I kind of want a slightly more slapdash look. And then, as you can see here, I've got the next set of unarmored legionaries. So these will be my more hastily raised troops, and for them I am following more of this style. So they'll have the plainer whiter tunics, but I'll probably go for a high variety of tones on the plain tunics, just to sort of really again hit home that slapdash kind of thrown together nature. I've also got a few more of them on sticks here, and what I've been able to do, and this is how I painted let me just turn the camera. This is how I managed to get these Austrians done, is I basically take a set of troops upstairs to a little painting trail, try and include a picture here, and then I have a very limited palette with me, and so because obviously with traveling as much as I do, one of the issues is I don't get to spend a lot of time with my wife, so when I am home, it's a bit rich of me to sort of hide in the basement, especially when I just get home, but at the same time, not much of a TV watcher, so whereas Catherine enjoys watching crime shows or whatever it is of an evening. So what we do is I sit on the sofa with her, she watches her horrible crime shows that I hate, and I paint toy soldiers. So I have a little headlamp and I just crack on and you know uh, get on with some sort of very production line style painting, which works for both of us. So I was able to get these, again, with highly uniform things, it's easy to get them done, like these Austrians. And then again with the Romans, I'll just sort of demonstrate here. So let me give you a demonstration. So we'll use this guy and this guy as examples. So what I'll do to make it a bit clearer, maybe it's not going to be easy to make it clear, but I'll rest them on my hand there. So you can see there's two different tones of red. The one on the right is more of a scarlet color. In fact, it's the scarlet triad from Foundry. And on the left, it's more of a kind of red, black, darker color that I've gone for from Vallejo. So what I did there was basically I did sort of say 8 or 6 or 12, whatever it was. I think it's 6 with the one tone, 6 with the other tone, and I paint 6 end to end with the one tone, or maybe I do the tunic. I do all the common parts and the tunic parts, and then usually I leave a few odds and sods that need doing, and I can just do them in bulk. But I do them in groups of roughly 6 or 12s. 6 and 12s tend to work well. And then with the Austrians, which I'll just move back and get in the center of frame system to look at, I did the same thing, just, you know, kind of ground through those. Because each figure is basically the same, the variances are in like hair and mustache color. So, and skin tones, I obviously vary those. So, for example, let me just tell you what I mean by that. What I'll do, these were done on sticks, so I don't normally do this, but what I'll do is I'll 845 is whatever skin tone that is from Vallejo. and then I'll do the skin tone, and then I'll do the wash, and then a highlight. Once the skin's done, I can then graduate them up to sticks, because I find it difficult to paint on these sticks with 28mm figs. It's fine with 10mm or even 15, but with 28mm it's difficult to really get around the figure. So I use these handy little dowels that I had cut. They're sort of nice handhold size, and then I can manipulate the figure any which way I want. So I try to do the skin tones probably downstairs, because I can have the variety of colors, skin tones available. And then when I get to the point where it's like crack on, I just do bulk colors, and I can go upstairs and just get on the machine line there. Um, yeah, and so that's worked out quite well. So like in the last month, I've gotten these legionaries with the that do not have their stickers stuck on yet done, and then I also got obviously the Austrians done. I've also, there's, to be honest, there's a few other things I've gotten done in the meantime as well. I won't show them here because it's not really, edifying to look at. But I think probably once I get these Romans, the set of Romans done, the unarmored types, I'm probably going to switch fire and get back to some Chromium stuff, just to keep that moving. Again, variety is the spice of life, and just to reiterate the point with the Austrians, which is the more uniform the troops are, the better they lend themselves to that sort of machine, that factory line or production line painting system that I've described, using the kind of away tray. Similar is true for the 6mm stuff, although I find it's not that it's uncomfortable to paint upstairs like this, but because I'm sitting on a sofa, my posture isn't as good. So I prefer painting the small things up here, down here in the basement. What I'm going to try to do actually, next time I go to a show or I'm in the UK, probably when I go to Warfare this year, I'm really hoping to go. What I'll do is I've got a Bacchus, and I'm actually going to buy battalion guns and put them on the ends, because I think it's just going to look nicer. The units are slightly smaller this way, but I want the battalion guns. I think it'll just look nice. Little guns on the ends with some crew, and it'll very much look the part. I'm sort of not regretting, but I kind of wish I'd not gone for these 30mm wide bases up to 90mm wide for the units, but that was the basing system for Principles of War, which allows you to essentially create like columns and so on when they're marching along roads and that kind of thing. Wish I had sort of maybe just for the smaller scales, it might actually be in my best interest to go for just larger bases and just fill them out. Um, Again, like if anybody has any thoughts on that, I'm all ears. But I do like the slight modularity of it. Um, in terms of other things that I've put on the painting table recently, I just grabbed a bunch of 6mm Polish armor. Uh, so just to give you, these are Heroics and Ross 7TP. These are the DWs with the double turrets, and then this is a the single turret version that I painted a while back that you may have seen on the channel. So um, I've just copied the camo pattern, but I'm not really happy with how this has come out. And this is one of the reasons why I contacted Ralph actually by email and asked about those markers, because I thought maybe those markers might be something really helpful for like this very small scale. Not so much the blocking in, but I was more thinking for like if I wanted to do small blotches of um, camo, but doesn't sound like it's really the right thing based on what he's told me of the tips and that kind of thing. I was kind of hoping for something a bit more firm tipped, but it looks like they're kind of like a paintbrush tip, which isn't really what I was looking for. I was looking for something kind of like this, if you know what I mean. Maybe a bit thicker, but like a lining pen, but with more military model appropriate colors. So that kind of didn't work out, but again, it's not a big deal. I'd like to, with the 6mm stuff, it's nice to be able to just bash out a bunch of camo patterns. And again, thinking about what I've described as that little away station that I use upstairs, that's actually a really good use case for that, right? Is these sort of like armor type stuff, or even infantry, which have a very simple palette where you're just dabbing colors on, and you're not doing shading and that kind of thing. Because one of the challenges with shading, and you can do it when you do highly uniform troops, because you can have all the colors you need to hand. But I don't want to be coming up and down, up and down, up and down all the time. So anything kind of like these Gauls, I mean, obviously these were painted a long time ago, but I need to get the shields and stuff done and then get them based up with the rest of their comrades. I've sort of avoided, I would avoid doing those upstairs. So um, that is what it is. So that's basically all the hobby stuff I've gotten done this month. It's not an awful lot, as you can see, but I've still managed to make some progress, which, considering how little I've been home, it's actually not too bad. So I'm quite chuffed with that. Now I will show you some pickups that I got. Give me a second, and I'll get the camera set up again. Okay, so mentioned it a few times on the channel, but Imperial Hobbies is a wargaming store in Vancouver, Canada, right near the airport, YVR. And my friend Francis owns the store, and he has been in business for 40 years. So to celebrate, he's had a sale. He normally has sales from time to time, but he's done a 40th anniversary sale, which is quite generous. So basically 25% of everything in store. And then his famous red sticker sales, which is where he gets to put stuff on ludicrous markdowns. So this is what I got on Friday. I actually made a nice day of it. Went down there, met up with my mate Dave J, sat down, had lunch nearby. Apparently, because David called me just prior to the shop opening and said, "Hey, listen, there's a massive line of people out here." I was about 10 minutes away. He said, "Massive line to get in. We're not going to get in anytime soon. How about we, instead of trying to get in and waiting in line, we just go and have lunch first, and then things will simmer down," because it was like an iPhone launch, basically. And then what we can do is go in when it's a bit quieter and so on. And I mean, we're not in the market for anything particular, so it wasn't like there was a great urge to get there early doors. Part of the reason for going to the sale is obviously to support our mate, and then also you just pick stuff up, kind of on a whim. You don't go with any real plans in mind. I mean, you might have something in mind. If you see it, you'll buy it, but it's not. I'm not going there to spend like expressly. I'm just there to sort of peruse. So we we had lunch at the Flying Beaver. It turns out there was some famous NBA player there at the time. I don't know anything about basketball, so he was eating there. Steph Curry or something is his name. I don't know. But it turns out this restaurant's actually part of a terminal for little seaplanes. So pretty cool, actually. I've never been there before. It's about 5 minutes from the shop. And then after that, we went over to the shop to go pick our stuff up, and some of our other friends were already there and had been making purchases and so on. So I picked up a few things, not a lot, but a few things, thanks to my lovely wife, Catherine, who said yes. So we'll start off with these Warlord figures. I got a Royal Artillery gun, 9-pounder, for $18 Canadian. Which retailed for $29.95 Canadian, and I think it's roughly that price in US dollars when you buy it new. So I got it at a pretty steep discount, not quite half off, but then with the Canadian dollar being weaker than the US dollar, it was a reasonable saving. So a gun for the Crimean Army, which is always useful, right? And then I got a second gun, but a Russian foot gun this time. Again, same price, no complaints there. This is a 12-pounder gun. So that's another handy dandy saving. Then I found in the bargain basement for $20 Canadian, I found this bag of Roman command figures. They are early Imperial by the look of it. There seem to be centurions in there. Yeah, in typical old glory fashion, they are doing the thing which annoys me, I suppose, but is very idiosyncratic for them, which is the glancing away type thing. So you'll find a figure that's moving forward, but his head's looking up to the side. I bought this because I have a buckets load of Perry Foundry figures, which are still to be painted, and at some point they will get done. And I need command figures for them, and I am not, I am not rich enough to buy uh, Foundry figures, especially command figures, because it's just not good value for money. So I figured I could use these figures to bulk out what I have. Either if they didn't fit with my Perrys, I'd put them with my Black Tree Design figures. I don't know how many are in the bag, but it's pretty hefty, and they were severely discounted from about $51 down to 20. So that was a no-brainer. And then the other thing I got as well, we may remember last time I picked up some French mounted knights. This time I got some uh, Revenge Miniatures dismounted French knights with hand weapons, uh, down to $22. And again, I thought with this, I thought like for something like the Ecosher films, I think that's what it's called. Forgive me, French is not one of my strong suits, but maybe that rule set or something like that, more of a skirmish type game. These would be quite handy. Or I could just multi-base them for an army. But with the sort of medieval armies, I'm kind of split between thinking that I might prefer to play more skirmish-sized games, with more terrain and that kind of thing. So we'll see. But anyway, I snagged them while I could. They look like really lovely figures, and they scale with everything else I have, I think. So they're not gargantuan by any stretch. And then the last thing I got was this Eagle's Prey: When Nations Had the Will to Build, Wars for North America, 1824 to 1888, second edition from the Hoplite Research LLC. So, um, what this is it's like a campaign book, and rule set, I guess, army lists and all that stuff. But it covers, and I thought a lot about Sam when I saw this because it has the Mexican American War in it. But it has Mexico, 1824 to 1840, Mexico, 1841 to 1888, Imperial Mexico, the United States covering the same period, France, Spain, England, Imperial Russia, and then some campaigns here, some tactical scenarios and all kind of jazz. So I thought it looked interesting, so I grabbed it. I've never bought anything from the Hoplite Research before, so I thought I'd give it a go. I got it for $10 Canadian, which is a steal, really. Um, and I just thought I'd have a look. So grabbed that basically on a whim, really. It was in the bargain bin. And then there's one more thing I want to show you. Be back in a second. All right, and then one more thing, which I got from like an estate sale type thing. Chap in the Vancouver area passed away and has got his niece or something to sell off his figures. So there was a sort of rummage sale type thing which I went to, and it was basically make an offer type job. Grabbed this bag with 10 figures in it. Two very old. I'm guessing these are like Hinchcliffe or something. They look like British, sort of pith helmet wearing troops, maybe for the Sudan or Afghanistan or something. They're tiny. I mean, they're very much of an era. They were just in the bag. But the reason I got them was for these figures here. So let me zoom in a tad, and then hopefully I can show you what we've got here. We've got this guy and this guy. These are from Copplestone Castings. Initially, I thought they were Foundry because they reminded me of the Darkest Africa range, and I think that Mark Copplestone sculpted a lot of those, but they're actually from Copplestone Castings, and they're the German Officers Pack, which I grabbed because I mean they are just quite nice, and sort of the more civilian-ish type looking guys. I like this guy in the fez. I thought he was quite cool. And then this sort of marine, uh, with a sword and this little man of action, really. This guy, really odd pose with his hand behind his back, shooting his revolver. And then a fellow again in a sort of pith helmet, um, with a rifle. Uh, I grabbed them because I mean I got this entire bag for 10 Canadian dollars, which is a steal, really. It was $1 a figure. I would be a fool not to. And then there were some Foundry figures in the bag. This is from the Indian Mutiny range. Quite a nice figure. I suppose he could probably do duty in the Crimea potentially, as a sort of uh, battalion leader type thing. Although he looks a bit dressed down for that. And then a sepoy, I'm thinking, uh, drummer from the same Indian Mutiny range. And then this guy who I was looking at him and I thought he might be a American Civil War figure, but looking at his weapon, um, I think it might be. Well, he's got a belly pouch, like a belly cartouche, which is not something I've seen in the Civil War period, and he's almost kind of too. I don't know. Part of me thinks with the neckerchief there that he might be from like somebody's um, uh, sort of Maximilian range or something. I can't. I don't know if he's an American Civil War figure because the kepi obviously helps with that, or if he's from like a. Um, he looks like he's wearing a sash around his waist, and the trousers are quite baggy, and he seems to have spats, like gaiters. So I don't think it's American War of Civil War. So and then I can't quite tell if the weapon is a sort of uh, not match a flintlock, or if it's a breech loader type thing. I can't really tell. So if anybody recognizes this figure, let me know. I've checked the bottom and there's no brand markings that I can see. Um, anyway, he was in the bag as well, and he looks kind of handy dandy. I could probably use him for lots of different things. As I say, he seems quite like John. Sort of agnostic in terms of period, not period, but in terms of like where specifically he would have served. The things that make me think he might be French are the baggy trousers, the sort of gaiters, and then the sash around the belly. And the neckerchief kind of looks a bit too Gallic, if you will, for an American. But there you go. So I picked that bag up for 10 Canadian dollars. That was just a little, um, you know, spur of the moment thing. But I could use those colonial figures. They're quite nice, the Cobblestone ones. And those are the purchases I made this month. And then there's one more thing I wanted to show you, which will take me a second to set up. Okay, and then the last thing is this 15mm collection. Now, ignore the Crimean fellas at the back there, partially done Russians. But when I was over in the UK, I was visiting my friend Taff, who I've known since 2003, 2002, 2003. So I've known him basically as long as I ever lived in the UK. He's been a good friend to me, and we, way back in the day, probably 2004, 5, we really got into DBA, and that's what these armies are for. So there's he. We talked a little bit about wargaming, and I asked him if he still played and stuff, and he just said no. He's kind of given up on all that. He hasn't really got a group to play with anymore, and he just doesn't. Nobody plays anymore where he is. So he'd gotten rid of most of his like Warhammer stuff and all the sort of more Games Workshopy things. He had nicely painted armies that just he just didn't use them, so he got rid of them, made a bit of money on that, and then we were chatting, and I said, "Oh, it's a real pity because obviously I'm kind of in the thick of it here with my local club," and he said, "Why don't you take all this stuff? Because I'm not going to use it." And he gave me two boxes. They were sort of like about yay big, the sort of thing that you'd get like coffee, coffee or real cat food or dog food, like tins in. And so, um, in amongst it, so I'll just give you. I'm not going to go into detail here because there's a lot to show, but it's all painted, the various standards. But this is not just his stuff. This is also our friend Don's stuff. And Don passed away a few years ago. I think Don passed away in 2006 or seven, probably seven. So I know there's a Welsh army for DBA here that Taff himself had done, and it's nicely painted. I mean, you look at it from a distance, it looks really snazzy. Then there's he even did some, let me show you this actually, because I think this is quite nifty. He even did like shield designs with like a dragon on it. I think that's for the Welsh. And then there's also an Anglo-Norman slash Crusader army here as well, which is the one here. So he's got like a King of Jerusalem over here. Baldwin, I think, is supposed to be. And then you'll see that the lances are a bit crooked, and that's because I didn't have a means of really transporting these because I wasn't expecting to get them, and I didn't really have time to pack them carefully. So I sort of stacked the two boxes on top of each other and layered clothes in between them, and hoped for the best. And obviously that then has like mushed the spears and so on and the lances. So they need a bit of fixing. Some of the figures have popped off their horses, as you can see. But I'll tidy up later. There's also an Outer Hebrides or an Islesman army, which is made up largely of these sort of Galaglass figures. I think this is one of Don's armies initially. So there's a fair bit here. And there's, like I said, there's the Crusader army, which is quite nice. It even has the camp elements as well. Let me see if I can get those more in shot. Little camp elements for them there. Which Taff put a lot of effort into. So yeah, and you can differentiate the armies based on the basing. So if they have the little pebbly bits and the green, then it's the Crusader army. If it's just green, it's the Welsh army. And if it's got little bushes on it, then it's the Western Isles army. Uh, and then also there's a small Spartan army over here. The spears of some of the spears have come off, but you know I can fix that. That's not an issue. What I may do, I'm loath to repaint anything because I feel that it would be, in a sense, denigrating the efforts of my friends who've painted them before me. And honestly, they're painted well enough that it's not a big deal. So I don't think they really need tidying up. They might just need a bit of brushing. Some of them got dust on them, so they just need a bit of a clean. Um, but I'll probably just rebase them. I think that might be the only thing that I do because I'm not a huge fan. I don't know if you've ever bought Essex bases, but these green sort of plastic ones. I might replace them with wooden bases and then base them more for like ADLG or something. So like the Spartans, for example, I'd probably put them 8 or 9 to a base and use them for that and put them on a 40 by 40 mil base. And then I can roll them into a later Greek hoplite army that I have, or use them as mercenaries in my uh, Carthaginian army. So a bit of options there, but I don't really want to repaint unless necessary. I'm going to try to keep the army roughly as it was given me, so that I can keep it as a, you know, when I use them, I can think, oh yes, these are the figures that my friends painted. It's really sad when people sort of abandon the hobby, but I understand why. You know, if you don't use these things and you don't solo play, or what's the point of hanging on to them? And then in addition to this, there's one thing I want to show you. Right, so this is the this is the boxes I was talking about. So this is obviously Winterlock dog food, I think. A couple of bases there, look like 40 by 30 bases. Um, and in here there are some loose figures. So there's a war wagon, I think. It's fallen apart, but you can see the oxen there. The wheels are in here. Here's one of them, and here's the other. Um, and then I was sort of looking in here, and I'm not quite sure what's what, but I found what look like, these look very familiar to me. These are Marian Roman figures. I use these for my um, imitation legionaries for the Numidian army that I've got. And then there's some Numidian figures in here. So I'm thinking this might be an army pack for a sort of Marian Roman army that never got finished. So what I'll do when I get around to it, probably sooner rather than later, is I'll dig through all this stuff and see what's in here, and then figure out what to do with it now. So the Marian legionaries will probably get folded into my Numidian army, or I could just, you know, I could just do them as kind of imitation legionary type things, or just plain legionaries. It doesn't really matter. They can do double duty. The Numidians I can definitely use. I can just chuck them into my Numidian army. I mean, this guy's basically done, right? I can get him in my Numidian army, no problems. Same with the foot. There's some sort of Peltests or theory of, yeah, Peltest types here. I could probably use, these might be Italian actually with the style of the helmet, but or Illyrians or something. But I'll figure out what to do with these figures. It's just a case at this point that I need to sit back and sort through everything. But the other thing I want to show you here was some of these colors. I actually opened them and had a look. This blood red. I mean, this is an old Citadel color. Still good. Still works. Some of them have not survived very well. Like this Commando khaki, I think is just dried. This is sunburst yellow, I think. There's a white here. This flesh tone is still good. There's an orange. So there's still a few colors and stuff here I don't know. They're not. Some of them have dried out. Obviously, I just like they were part of the packaging, so I just grabbed them all. If they're salvageable, I will use them. If they're not salvageable, I will just throw them away. It's not a big deal. But it's quite remarkable how robust some of these older Citadel paints are compared to the newer ones. Um, yeah, I suppose uh, maybe the bottle design is just less amenable to keeping the paints fresh over long periods of time. But there you go. So it's been um, quite the month for me. I'm not going to lie, I'm incredibly tired, still quite jet lagged. And what I'm really looking forward to is just being home for a while with no serious travel. Um, that probably comes in the middle of September, so hopefully I get a few weeks where I'm just a man at home enjoying himself. So again, as I've said before, my key effort right now is going to be building upon the momentum I've gained by using the sort of upstairs painting method. I'm going to call it that, and just focus on getting figures out to good quality on a reasonable timeline. Again, part of that is focusing on things that are highly uniform, which I think makes a lot of sense because I can, like I said, limited palette on the painting tray and just get it done. Uh, so I think the next move will be um, get some more Romans done, get some Crimean stuff. I'm close to having a guard battalion done. I'd quite like to finish that off, but the command figures are going to be that had the hassle because they're less uniform, right? They've got a bit more fiddle to them. They'll probably be next after I finish the remainder of the kind of standard blokes. And then I've got to do a little bit of rebasing with that same battalion to get them to the correct numbers per base, which is going to be a hassle. I'm not looking forward to that, but I made this rod for my own back. Um, and that will be a guard battalion done. And then probably finish off the Austrians, like the command plus the remaining figures I need to do the unit complete. And then I don't know what I'll do then. Probably more Crimean stuff or more Romans. I'll pick something uniform again that I can just churn through. The Austrians, I think, are part of an effort. I wanted to do, this goes way back, but when Victrix released their original Austrian box, it was still a box back then. Now they seem to come in bags, but back then it was a box. I really wanted to do like a video about the box set. Well, it looks like I might finally be able to do the video. So I'll just give you my thoughts probably on the nature of the state of these Victrix figures. We'll see how we get on. And that's it really. Not much else to report other than you know, summertime here has been glorious. My little buddy is on her position here, as usual, having a snooze. She just had a wash, so she's not wearing her collar today. Yeah, you're a good girl, eh? And she's been very, very good and missed me immensely. I like to think. Did you miss me? I don't think you probably noticed I was gone. No, she did notice I was gone. She pining after me. My wife tells me. Anyway, so yeah, little buddies here with me, and just to give you a sense of what's going on the table, it's just hordes of stuff all the time. Um, I've been enjoying watching. Ralph has been very productive recently. Lots of videos out, so I've been enjoying those. Um, but in all truth, I've not really been keeping on top of the YouTube stuff as much as I normally do. Um, just being, when you're traveling and you're tired all the time, I'm not feel like I'm focusing fully. So, with the exception of Ralph's videos, which I tend to just watch as soon as they come out, I've not really been keeping on top of what people have been pushing out. And also, I will say that the summertime tends to be a quiet time for YouTube wargaming video makers. So I'm not surprised that it's maybe been a bit quieter because the weather's nice. Why would we be inside painting figures, right? Um, anyway, I'll love you and leave you, and um, talk soon. All right, take care. Bye.